a form with a text box, and we want to be able to control what happens when you submit that form. So let's get to it. Now, if you look at the tools page on the website, again, you'll hear me go on quite a bit about something called emit. I talk about it especially on the key bindings page. And it's just a short way to, I think I might even, I talk about it here. It's just a shorter way to write HTML, but it's pretty dang convenient, and we can use CSS selector syntax to write it. So here's how it works. If I want to make a paragraph, I type just P and my shortcut for emit expansion, and it turns it into the opening and closing tag and puts my cursor right in the middle. If I want to specifically create a paragraph with a tag of special, I can just say p.special. And it turns it into angle bracket p space class equals quote special quote angle bracket slash p angle bracket. I don't know about you, but I think p.special is easier. So pretty nice. So I'm going to be doing that. And I have instructions in there for how to set that up. It's actually built into Visual Studio, but it just uses tab completion by default. And you'll notice some of these things like P. If you just start typing P, IntelliSense might suggest something else. And if you hit tab, that's what it'll put there. So I actually assign a separate key binding for emit expansion. That tool is called emit, and it's built into VS Code, and it's super handy. Anyway, I want to add a section to my document. Now, section you'll also find looks just like a paragraph or a div. It's just another block level element added in HTML5, but it lets us assign a little more meaning to sections of our document. So let's create one. Section, opening and closing tag. And inside there, I'm going to create a div. Inside my div, I'm going to create a form. Inside my form, I'm going to put a paragraph. And inside that paragraph, I'm going to add two things, a label and a text box. Label. We'll just leave that for attribute as is for the moment. And underneath that, an input. It'll add type equals text. That's good. That's what we want. Notice, no closing tag. Input is an empty element. It does not have any contents. So there are lots of input types, the simplest of which is text, which is just a text box. Now we're going to add an attribute to this input called name. So that we can refer to this text box later, we will give it a control name. Let's call it person name. Mind you, that cannot have spaces in it. We're just going to use the same rules that we use for JavaScript variables, even though this isn't technically a JavaScript variable. So no spaces, and we're going to camel case the name. So up on the label, in the for attribute, we can put the same thing as the name of the input, and then that actually links those two things together. That won't make it look any different, but you could actually use that to target and do some fancy things in CSS or in JavaScript to tie those two things together. Or for people who can't see and who use screen readers to browse the web, the fact that those things are tied together with that for is actually very helpful. And sometimes, like with checkboxes, actually using for makes it a lot easier to hit the checkbox because you can actually hit the label next to it and it'll know which box to check. And as you might imagine, to actually label it, we will put something in the contents of the label element, like name. And let's refresh the page in the browser. Yay, name, a text box. Very exciting. So exciting, I'd say I've taken a major step, and I should probably commit this to my history so I can retrace my steps later in case I forget how I did this. Let's do it. run a get status here. Okay, index.html has changed. We can just add that. But it's already in the repository, right? But those changes to that file were still only in the working directory. So we are adding just those changes to the index, and then we must commit them. Commit, add a text box. Git push. And now I see 3 commits on GitHub. So what if we want to do something with what we type in there? What happens right now if we type something in there and hit enter? It just seems to refresh the page. If we look at the URL, it adds question mark person name equals whatever I typed. So we want to make it do something else, but we're gonna have to write some code to do that.